Moving straight to our topic of discussion, we're looking at the 2024 National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Services report that came out. Now, to highlight a little bit details of the research of the report, it said looked at Nigeria has lost an estimated 54,000 hectares of farmlands to pests and diseases in 2024. Additionally, about 17,000 hectares were destroyed by floods. We also saw major crops affected like maize, millet, cassava, rice, and yam were severely impacted, with some regions experiencing up to 60% crop losses. Furthermore, pest infestation, this is the details of the report. Pest infestation, the fall armyworm infestation on maize particularly was devastating, and it affected over 26 states. And we also have climate change like irregular rainfall and prolonged dry spells, weakening crop persistence, exacerbating pests and disease problems. And also, of course, insecurity also affected food production in Nigeria in 2024. But on a positive note, the report stated that despite these challenges, some crops like ginger, cowpea and groundnut saw increased production due to improved seed varieties and better weather conditions in some certain areas. And it also saw an improvement in youth participation in agriculture, with increased youth being interested in agriculture, although mechanization remains a challenge with only 22% of farms using tractors. Now with us we have our guest in the studio, Dr. Francis Onyekachi, Manager, Stewardship, African Agricultural Technology Foundation. Thank you for joining us in the studio here.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we also have our guest via Zoom. We have Professor Emmanuel Ikani, Executive Director, National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Service. Thank you for joining us, Professor Emmanuel.
I'm happy to be here.
Good morning, Professor Emmanuel. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, I'm hearing you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. While we let that get sorted out, let's start off with Dr. Francis Onyekachi. I don't know if you've seen the report, but I highlighted a few things the report had to say. Now, what's your thought on the few things I highlighted? Or if you've looked at it before, what's your thoughts on the report so far?
Yeah, it's a very detailed report by the National Agricultural Extension Research and Liaison Services, which Professor Ikani lead. And from experiences in the field, I would say that the report is just a reflection of the exact situation of things in Nigeria. You see, it has highlighted issues of pests and diseases, issues of flood, issues of sporadic rainfall and some drought situations here and there, and of course the big issue of insecurity, all this affecting agricultural productivity in the country. So I mean, it's something we expect following what we see. And then the report has also highlighted the major gains in cowpea, in ginger, in groundnut. Of course, cowpea is a crop that is, largely infested by insects. It suffers insect infestation so much. But then the introduction of a new cowpea variety called the pod borer resistant cowpea, which will also have contributed to, the gain in cowpea. So it's also expected.
All right, now let's talk about pest control. What innovations, you are into agricultural technology, what are those modern innovations you would want farmers to look into when it comes to pest control? We see how it affected crops like maize, and we know how important maize is in a nation like Nigeria, down to poultry farmers. Yesterday we spoke to the Poultry Association of Nigeria, and one of their major challenges was the cost of chicken feed. And one of the major things they use to produce this feed is maize. We know how important maize is in Nigeria, and we have issues of pests affecting crops like maize on a large scale. What kind of technology would you advise or encourage farmers to use to curb pest control?
Okay, maize, like you've rightly said, is a very important crop for us in Nigeria and for everybody because of the several uses of maize. Humans eat it, animals eat it, and then it's also a very industrial crop for so many other products and byproducts. And the major pest of maize is the stem borers and the fall armyworm. And luckily, Nigeria is, I would say, is a lucky country that just this year, the tailor maize was released for farmers But of course, the rate is still very low because the seed has to be multiplied to go round to farmers. But it's a good news that moving forward, farmers have this variety of maize. There's one thing fantastic about the teller maize. It controls the fall armyworm completely. It controls the stem borer also completely. And
this teller maize, is it a type of maize?
It's a variety of maize.
Okay.
It's a variety of maize that has insect protection. So it resists the major insects of Lepidopteran class.
Safe for human consumption?
Yes, it's very safe for human consumption.
Okay.
Yes. So it controls both the stem borers and the fall armyworm. And farmers who have tried it this year, because I've gone around monitoring what's going on in the farmers' field, farmers that have tried it did not spray because there's no need to spray. And then one other good thing about it is that it also controls mild drought.
So you're saying it's an option?
Yes, it's an option, and a very good option.
All right, now let's quickly join our Zoom guest. We have the Director General of National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Service, Dr. Emmanuel Ikani. Dr. Emmanuel Ikani, can you hear us now?
Yes, I'm hearing very clearly.
All right, Dr. Emmanuel Ikani, we're talking about the report, and before you joined us, we're looking at, pests and how it affected productions. So I want to ask, how does NAERLS plan to collaborate with other agencies to ensure that farmers receive adequate support in times of crisis such as flood and even this issue of pest infestation?
Thank you. Our job is very simple to whatever improved technology we find in this space to try to package it in the form that farmers across the nation we have access to information in the form they can understand, they can practice and can use. For instance, Dr. Fancy just told you about the pyramids and about the product systems, the cowpea, who are the motors of these new varieties. I, as a person, planted the teller maize in my farm this year, and I had almost 100% increase in yield. So we promoted the same to the Obera cowpea. They are insect resistant. They have been breeded to outsmart the older variety. So we push that across the nation. And so that's what we do. Like I told you in the report you read, there was an increase in percentage of farmers that are using improved varieties of seed. Last year we had a case of a survey we did, we discovered that only 15% of Nigerians are using seed. It means about 75, 85 were using grains on their farm as seed, which is wrong. So, but this year there was an increase. You saw it in the report. And this, I can give it to you, that AATF that Francis represented, because of the work they are doing in promoting seed in alliance with the National Seed Council, led to this increase. And Nigeria is going to be good for it, that Nigerians are now planting seed instead of grains, and planting improved varieties. And we are at the core of it in promoting to all the nooks and corners. I know my institute will have national mandate, and across the zones we have offices to get to the farmers at splits of time. That's what we do, to give improved information to farmers to use the best agricultural practices for increased yield.
All right,
that's our work.
All right, Professor Emmanuel. Now let's talk about rice production. Something Nigerians are interested in. Rice is expensive, and we're hoping that what is being done to increase rice production in such a way that Nigeria can be self-sustained. Do we look forward to being self-sustained when it comes to rice production?
Livestock, you mean?
Rice. We'll get to livestock shortly. Rice production.
Oh, rice. Okay. Rice, right from the 2012 to date, the promotion of what we call Nigerian rice started under when Dr. Additional was the Minister of Agriculture. And Kebbi State, Ebonyi State, Lagos they went at the forefront. Right now, Nigeria is almost self-sufficient in rice production. I know the place of rice in our food. And so the Nigerian Research Institute in Badegi went into action, and they produced a number of varieties. These are the varieties we are pushing to farmers. And Nigeria now is proud to eat Nigerian rice, not called local rice, called Nigerian rice. And I can tell you that with the favorable rainfall we have in recent times, rice, both the swamp rice and the upland rice are going to take the space. What you need to do is for us to put our money where our mouth is. Since the federal government is promoting food security, we need to also back it up with funding so that research can go into producing more climate resilient varieties like flood resistant, drought resistant, and short duration. These are the type of varieties we need now because of the climate change. And this can only happen through research. And so government should push money into research and then into promotion of these varieties. And then there should be less importation. That means a ban on importation of rice as it is now so that the local production can increase. And Nigerians are already embracing it. You saw in our report that a number of youth have gone into farming. And these are the type of things we are looking and encouraging in the new government.
All right, we'll get to that part now, but let me come back to Dr. Francis here with us in the studio. Let's talk about technologies. What technologies can farmers put in place, especially to monitor their crops and prevent large-scale destruction? What technologies will really encourage farmers, small-scale farmers, large-scale farmers? Let's look at it at levels. For small-scale farmers, what technologies are affordable to them that they can put in place to monitor their crop production, and also for large-scale farmers?
Okay, thank you very much. There are different types of technologies, and technologies are always product specific, and most times technologies are also solving a specific problem. For instance, first of all, I will advise farmers and encourage the population to encourage farmers to use varieties that are developed for to address certain constraints of farmers. Like looking at it from this report of the National Agricultural Extension Research and Liaison Services. First of all, they've highlighted pests and diseases. So for those crops that have technologies developed, to address issues of pests and diseases, so it's important for farmers to begin to use those specific varieties that have been developed, to address those problems. For instance, the pod borer resistant cowpea, that is for beans, and the pest resistant, fall armyworm resistant, and stem borer resistant products like the teller maize, which is already available in the country. So for things that has to do with flood, this is where also the government should come in to support research. There are a couple of research institutes in Nigeria with a lot of capacities but need some government support to be able to also develop those varieties that can withstand some level of flood, because flood is becoming a problem more and more, and we're beginning to see it every year. That's one flood in one place or the other. So but this is not at the level of farmer, it's at the level of the research institute. And for the research institute to function, government need to back them or provide more support for them to develop those varieties. And then concerning irregular rainfall, dry spell, that is drought. It's also something we are beginning to see more and more. So climate change is a reality. There are a couple of varieties of crops that have some level of drought tolerance, and that is where also the National Agricultural Extension and Liaison Services and all the ADPs across the nation should also come together to promote these drought resistant varieties, because that is what will help farmers. So the issue is more around government and the agencies promoting relevant technologies, relevant varieties, and then of course farmers on their own have a responsibility to adopt these varieties. But of course, how can they adopt if they are not aware of these technologies? And this is where also the media, and both mainstream media and social media, come in to promote these technologies and spread the information so that farmers can from time to time understand and be able to plant these varieties.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor, for talking about the level of awareness. Now, this brings me back to Professor Emmanuel, if you can hear us now. What is being done to educate farmers on these technologies that are available to them? Are farmers aware that these technologies are available to them, and what ways are you putting in place to educate them and engage them on, knowing that these technologies are available to them and this is what they can do to prevent either drought or flooding or pest?
Thank you. That's a very vital question and very interesting. That is the role, like I just told you, the role of extension. Extension in Nigeria is carried out at the state level by what we call the Agricultural Development Programs, ADPs. And all the states have, including Abuja. And so my institute were directly, strongly related to these ADPs because they are the food soldiers for extension delivery to the farmers. So what we do is any research product that comes out, we pick it up, we try to look at it to make sure it's adapted to our environment, and then we're ready to push it out. I mean, they package in the way that farmers can understand. And there's a high level of illiterate farmers in our land. So what we do, we go through radio. This can happen through documentaries, it can happen through sport announcements, jingles. We also go through TVs, and then publications. We have what we call the extension bulletins. We have extension guides, we have flyers, we have posters, and then we do trainings. Whatever technology comes up, we organize a workshop where we train the extension managers across the nation. Then the extension managers step it down to the subject matter specialists, who also step it down to the village extension agent, and then push it to the farmers. That is how it goes. Now, but I can tell you that the ADPs right now have issues. Most states are no longer funding the ADPs. So I know the agriculture is on concurrent list, and you cannot force any state to fund ADP. So what you do in the now, because we know some of the ADPs are no more in their best of state, we are now taking advantage of ICT. So if you come to my institute, we have a national farmer safe line. We call it national farmer safe line, where all the farmers in the country have access to our phone line. They can call us. I mean, it's a call center. They can call us, whatever issues they have on the field, and we'll respond to them at splits of seconds.
Okay.
We have a database of frequently asked questions where we can respond to farmers. And if there's an issue we cannot respond to, we escalate it to other specialists who can handle it, and farmers are good to go. So we are currently leveraging on ICT to this center. Then the next thing we want to do is to take advantage of AI, artificial intelligence. We want to provide leadership in agri-space with artificial intelligence to reach out to farmers. Since airtime has become a problem in the radio and TV stations, these are the things we are doing in the now.
So are these things accessible to rural farmers, and is it in their indigenous languages for them to understand, for those who are rural farmers?
Yes. Exactly. We speak to the farmers in their mother's tongue who have our publications in Hausa, have it in English, have it in Pidgin English, have in Yoruba, have in Igbo, have in, if you want us to do it in any language, including Fufude, we have the staff that can quickly translate. That's what we do. And then, for the phone access to phone, over 150 million Nigerians have access to phone. So we're taking advantage of phone. That's why we have a call center. And we speak to the farmers in their language. That's what we do.
All right. Now, quickly, according to the reports, like we said earlier, ginger and cowpea production were on the rise. What is being done to sustain that?
Good. That's a very good question. Last year, we had a report. In our report, ginger production was a sorry state, particularly in Kaduna State. Kaduna State is the hub of ginger production in Nigeria. It was there was an infection, a disease infection that brought it down to almost zero. So we quickly captured it and pushed it into the Ministry of Agriculture and Food City. We now related with the research institute that is involved and alerted them. So they're now into action. They went into action with the support of the ministry, and now they were able to provide solutions and to provide good information to farmers what they could do best. And the result is what we are seeing this year, a very good increase in ginger production in Kaduna State and all across the nation. So that is one. The other one is the cowpea. The story about cowpea is that what Dr. Francis told you. We now have a variety that is bred to solve the problem of Maroka. That is the pod-resistant, the pod-bearers pest. That we now have. And they have been able to float a number of companies, seed companies, that are pushing this to the farmers. This is the secret of the percentage rise you had in the seed use of seed by farmers. And this has improved greatly cowpea production. You ask a question, how do we sustain it? Very simple. We'll continue the sensitization, we'll continue the information, reaching out to farmers across the nation via the ADPs, via the extension agents, and to the farmers. And as long as we push this across, we're going to have a sustained production of increase in production in ginger and cowpea.
All right, now 1 minute now before we let you go, so we'll get back to Dr. Francis. What are your predictions for next year's food when it comes to food security in Nigeria? What are your predictions? Do we see an increase in maize production and other, crops in Nigeria, and also livestock? Professor Ikani, can you hear me?
Oh, is it me?
Yes. What are your predictions?
Okay, I can hear you.
In a minute, real quick.
Our prediction is very simple. Our prediction is very simple. We noted that the increase in the marginal increase we had in food production this year was because of the sensitization and the awareness that there's need for food security in the country, and that is why food security became part of the ministry. That is one. Two, the embrace of youth into farming because of Nigerians are resilient human beings. The hunger that came was real. So and everybody knew that the only way to get food is to go to agriculture. So youth went into agriculture across the value chain.
All right.
And so there's big hope. There's big hope. As I'm talking to you, the federal government is doing all it wants to do to improve extension services. And if we push this across the nation, there's hope for sufficiency of food into next year.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Emmanuel, for that. Now, Dr. Francis, to conclude now, finally, what are your predictions when it comes to food production? You've spoken about, new types of crops that are being put out, seedlings that have been given to farmers that are climate resistant and drought resistant and pest resistant, which is a good thing. We've seen increase in food production. We've also seen increase in youth involvement in agriculture, but at the same time, mechanized farming was low at 22%. So what are your predictions for 2025? Do we see certain things on the increase, or knowing that we're still facing more climate change come next year? Flooding is still going to be a story next year. Will we see more crop production, or will we experience the same that we have this year?
Okay, thank you very much. Agriculture does not exist on its own. It exists within the wider macroeconomics, issues within the country. So government is already doing a lot in terms of supporting the seed sector, in terms of supporting the other activities along the value chain of food production up till it gets to the table. So government needs to sustain that. Government needs to add the tempo, increase the tempo so that we can be sure. And security is also highlighted in this report.
Yes. And
it's a very huge issue. So I know the relevant government agencies are also trying their best, but the best, really needs to improve in terms of solving this problem, because especially there should be some policies targeting at protecting the farmers.
All right.
So that the farmers go to the field with confidence and they're able to farm. Otherwise, it's
we'll still experience the same thing.
Yes.
So it boils down to insecurity and the government playing much more role than they used to, because on the part of bodies like you, where we have these resources in place, but we need security, farmers to be able to go to farmland and being able to take their products out for people to buy as well. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a very eye-opening and interesting segment. Here we had with us Dr. Francis Onyekachi, Manager, Stewardship, African Agricultural Technology Foundation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we had via Zoom Professor Emmanuel Ikani, Executive Director, National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Service. Thank you so much for staying with us, Professor Emmanuel Ikani.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Having said that, we've come to the end of this segment. We'll go on a very, very quick break. When we get back, we'll look at the stories that made it to the front pages of the newspaper. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.